Hey folks, happy Monday. This is going to be a very short video where I'm going to talk about the recent changes to medical gameplay in Star Citizen. Every content creator is doing it. Everyone has their take. There's positive, there's negative, there's educated, there's maybe a little bit of a lack of understanding from some people on what these changes mean or signify. So this is going to be my 2 cents. You can comment below. I'm not saying I'm right. It's just sort of providing some context based on someone who plays the game pretty immersively. For starters, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, in Star Citizen, until very recently, only Tier 1 and Tier 2 medical beds allowed for respawn, and the expectation of a lot of players was that in the future, only Tier 1 would allow respawn, based on comments that CIG or maybe some higher tier content creators had made in the past. That changed with 3.23.1 when it was announced that all medical beds would allow respawn with stipulations set on each based on range and other factors in the future. So as opposed to needing a Carrick or an 890 jump to allow for respawn in game in the current patch, you could use a medical Pisces or a medical Ursa. And so this upset some people who have maybe pledged or based their gameplay around higher tier medical ships, feeling like maybe they were lied to or tricked, or like it's completely changed medical gameplay or no one's going to need it. I don't personally believe that's the case, but what I want to do, we're going to hit play, we're going to watch the Ursa Medevac video. It doesn't just advertise the Ursa Medevac, it also kind of gives you an idea of what they're thinking of what medical gameplay and what reviving gameplay is going to be like. And then we're going to dive in and talk for a couple minutes about this. So let's check it out.
You're probably thinking I'm a goner. But the thing is, I've died 1,000 times. Because a regen has always been the strategy. Let's do this. One more time.
So what does that show us? It shows us a cool new ground vehicle that has a medical bed in it that allows for respawn. If you park it nearby, within 20 kilometers, which is the range limit on Tier 3 med bed respawn now, you can essentially come back indefinitely right now in Alpha, turning it from what people were picturing medical in Star Citizen being like more to something closer to altered carbon, where as long as you have the money or the facilities for a new clone or sleeve, that you can kind of just come back forever. What people seem to be forgetting, this is where my opinion starts, is that we are in Alpha. Right now, death doesn't matter. People, if they get downed or injured and they don't want to wait for a medical pickup, they can just hit backspace. Takes them back to a station and they can leave their gear behind if they want to, or they can re-gear up and go back for it. That has always been a viable thing to do. Now, if they have a ship big enough to carry an Ursa Medevac, or if they have medical Pisces, they can park out front of the mission and just simply respawn and go back in multiple times. In the current alpha play state, that means that more people will need medical support less often. However, just to that point, I think a lot of people forget that we're only talking about pledging at the moment. Like, you have to pledge the medical Ursa. It's not available in game yet. If you want the medical Pisces, you have to save up for it in game. Forget pledging for a moment. The number of people who are going to just pledge that ship to have that are actually very low. And so if somebody has a starter ship like a Cutter or a Aurora and they're saving up for a medical ship, they're going to need medical support for quite some time. If you want to compare it to something else that I've played a lot of, Elite Dangerous with fuel. The fuel rats existed, that if you ran out of fuel, they would come bring you fuel. Higher tier players did not run out of fuel because they learned the ropes of the game. They had fuel scoops, they had bigger ships, they had more fuel tanks. And the fuel rats made a full career off of starter players, which is exactly what I think medical players will do, because not everybody is going to pledge ships. I believe they're going to stop selling those types of ships when the game goes live. So it doesn't really ruin your medical gameplay in the future. It just affects it right now in alpha. A little bit. The second thing is that people don't seem to be taking into account the future of medical. Some of this is things that people have said, and some of this is just theory crafting, so I'll kind of define which is which. What CIG have said is that when Death of a Spaceman comes online, that death will have real negative effects to it. We just know that dying and respawning will, yes, bring you back, but there will be things that limit you or start to degrade over time. That's all we've really been told. My interpretation of that is that the beds will first off be limited. So range, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you will respawn from different distances. You'll also be affected by number of imprints allowed on the machine, I think. So maybe a tier 3 bed can only have 1 imprint. So it's good for you, but nobody else. You can't have a crew, you can't help anybody else, it only stores 1. Maybe a tier 2 bed will only store 5. Tier 1 stores indefinite numbers. The third thing is they've talked about clone degradation. So what if respawn is a last resort? Because we know we have skill trees coming into the game. What if every time you die, you lose points off your skill tree? What if? So if you get downed, sure, you could backspace to your ship, but what if you've already backspaced or died 10 times that month, and you know you're going to lose your best perks? Or maybe a tier 2 bed can have respawn, but can only fix tier 2 or lower injuries. So you have a tier 1 head injury, you respawn on a tier 2 bed, you still have a tier 1 head injury and you can barely see. So there's still medical gameplay. So if you take into account the first part, which is not everyone has or can afford or has saved up enough for a medical ship yet, whether that's pledged or in-game or not, and then you take into account that we don't even know what medical gameplay is going to fully look like or what the negative effects are going to be of dying too often, this just doesn't concern me. Right now in alpha, yes, I can put a medical Ursa on the back of my Corsair and have a medical Corsair. It's great. I don't need to call for respawn as often. I park right outside of a mission site. I die, I spawn. I die, I spawn. But that's very short term. I don't think it's going to be like that after alpha. I don't think a lot of people have medical ships or will get one. I think they're going to be expensive in game. I think they're probably going to, anything with a medical bed will probably be pricier. So I've seen a lot of really good debates about this online. I've also seen plenty of debates that are just absolutely filled with bigotry and hatred. There are people who seem to think that they own this game or that they have some kind of, larger stake in it than everybody else who plays. We're customers. We're customers who like this product and we're playing it in a pre-released state. If you're really that upset, stop playing. Sell your stuff on Starhanger and stop playing. If you have legitimate comments, go to Spectrum. Leave them for the devs. If you want to comment on what I'm saying, go in my comments and just comment and debate and discuss. But I see people who are saying that the game is ruined and broken and it's now completely over because anybody can just get a respawn ship. If you play the game for 6 to 8 weeks and you can buy a medical Pisces in game and you can now respawn from bunkers, who cares? Stop gatekeeping the game behind the expensive ship you pledged. People can now respawn at their own pace, and there will likely in the very near future be drawbacks to doing so. You die 10 times and spawn in a tier 3 bed, suddenly your legs don't work, or you've lost your perks, or who knows, maybe you respawn with lower health or lower oxygen or worse eyesight or any number of things they could put in as factors. So that's it. I just wanted to get the thoughts off my chest. A lot of people have been asking me and just in our Discord, like, hey, what do you think of this? If anybody else finds my viewpoint interesting, I mean, great, leave a comment or share the video, jump in our Discord and talk to me about it. I'm not saying anybody else is wrong, but I'm not upset about this. As a Carrack owner who goes on a lot of rescue beacons, if I get less rescues because a few more people have medical ships, great. They don't pay that well anyway. It's fine until they flesh it out. I'm more concerned about other changes in 3.23, which I'll do other videos on. than I am about the fact that I can now respawn easier if I'm playing solo one night and I decide to fly the Medical Pisces instead of my Corsair. Okay? That's it. I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing and joining Discord and following and watching live and all that stuff. It's been great. If you think I'm not absolutely full of shit, feel free to give me a follow or a subscribe. And I will be live on Twitch tonight with our org. And otherwise, I have a few more videos coming this week that are a little bit more polished and more based on gameplay and updates and less on just opinion. Thanks a lot. I'll catch you guys next time.